Woke up, tech talk, news flash, AI rolling in future in a dash. Digital dreams, cold and safe. We got the vision, never out of sync. AI, as it to the sky.
Made a lovely intro because that'll be the logo.
We reaching high, not centralized.
We're back, folks. We're back for, this is Friday the 4th of October. I mean, it feels like a blur. When you're in startup world like we are, you know, you quit the 9 to 5 corporate life to work 24/7. So, you know, the days are definitely
9 to what? It was like,
what the frick is 9 to 5?
I wish.
Yeah, it was something that they invented back in the caveman era, I believe.
Right.
They used to write it on the walls and stuff because it would get dark. There was no electricity, so you probably had to stop working at 5.
It's true. The sun goes down. You're like, nothing else I can do. Fire is only going to light up so much.
You know, and there were probably doomers and
Simpler
skeptics
times.
about fire as well.
I kind of want
It's
to
like,
go back to it. I think
well,
9 to 5 would be great.
Yeah, it'd be great. But like, I mean, just going to the tech side of things, like they invented fire. Do you reckon that there were doomers back then in terms of like fire?
Oh yeah, they just set them for the fun. Just light people up and.
Oh no, or just people just thinking that you know, why should we have fire and stuff? We're already fine as we are. Like, the day's great. It's nice and short.
Could you imagine? It's like the first person who invented fire was just like, this fire is going to take over my job. What am I going to do?
Well, like, he wouldn't do it. Like he or she, it'd be the person. Yeah, it'd be like the Sam. They would be like the Sam Altman.
Yeah,
not that Sam Altman invented AI. Like, let's not get it twisted.
That's
Although
true,
in 1,000 years' time, things could get twisted. You know, like the history gets muddied. Anyway, this is episode 11.
Left. He could just argue that he was the inventor, given he's the only one left.
He could. He'll have. I mean, it'll be closed, overarching Omega AI that will be out there. Welcome to the Omega.
Have you seen nerding out here for a second? Have you seen on Netflix the Terminator anime series?
Oh, I've started seeing that. I haven't gotten into it. I like the Terminator movies. I'm not a huge animation kind of yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of it's I don't want to give anything away if anyone
is
wants
it real
to watch it.
Arnold?
No Arnold. This is like Japanese anime.
Oh right.
Yeah. So it's
okay, very cool.
Completely different. It's like still talks to Skynet, but like has a separate storyline that kind of.
Oh nice.
It's good fun. It was
like the Animatrix kind of thing. Like you had the Matrix and then there was the animated version.
Well, the Animatrix was like shorts, but this was like a proper a little mini series. Worth a watch if you're into that kind of stuff.
There you go, folks. Free advertising there for the Terminator.
That's been my week.
Well, I mean, speaking of Terminators, there's AI, right?
That's here. Skynet is here, as we've seen. How's your week been anyway?
I haven't had Skynet come up for us. Been watching the news mainly and been doing a lot of development stuff that we'll be able to announce on Psyche in future. So keep an eye out on that. Like it's just constant development, but there's so many great ideas and. I guess I'll touch on it in another episode, but what's interesting is that, and I know there's many other clever people that we meet through the AI space here locally, but it's just interesting
Much
to see
cleverer
stuff.
than me.
Oh, and us. But it's interesting seeing people that we talk to and ideas that we've had internally, like Arturo and I and Mark and our other partners and colleagues, that you start seeing bigger names talk about. So, for example, I was talking to you about the realism that this NotebookLM is and how it is this game changer, because not just for podcasts, but all these other things, imagine more realistic work. So it's not just a fancy toy that you have and how AI is treated right now, but it's an actual respected, relied upon kind of colleague. NotebookLM with its realistic podcast showed us that. And then you see Andre Karpathy talking about that leveling up too. So I'm seeing really interesting things in terms of the patterns. There's some things that people have spoken about, like recently Ethan Mollick, an article shared on LinkedIn by Michael Colo, who's another AI guy in our local space, highlighting that Ethan Mollick was saying that here's this thing where AI is actually having humans in the loop can actually degrade or it lowers the quality of the output, because sometimes AI in certain scenarios is just so much better, right? And this is something that we've said as well. It's we know that there's a need for human in the loop, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But sometimes it shouldn't just be a blanket human in the loop, because some things humans would actually be worse at. It's why, for example, we have autopilot in planes. We don't always have the humans doing it, or why we've got automated kind of steering and stuff in cars. Sure, you can drive automatic, but if everyone was driving automatic and stuff, there's much more that's going on. There's all these distractions. Like, I know we're steering, we're not driving, but automation can help. So sometimes it is good to actually have not so much humans in the loop. In any case, it's been a week of like insights and stuff like that, and just meeting clients and just doing further development. What about you?
Well, me, it's been, so with Digital Village, we go through our quarterly OKRs, stems, and we see how we've been tracking and then look at how we can re-strategize. So we've been deep in sort of that strategic element of the business right now, looking at how we can better automate. So for right on the topic that you're talking about, a lot of the processes and things that we do. So whether it's our marketing or how we engage with our community and customers and network alike, how can we use the tools that are at our hands to help better engage with them, and how can we give back to them as well? Like one of the big things I think that we've found out that we're missing is that value add for a lot of the people in our community. It's like, you're part of this ecosystem, there's good engagement and conversations, but we just as a business don't feel like we're giving those people enough back in return. So we're exploring how can we do that? How can we add more value to the people who are a part of our community? And then the other part of things that I've been looking at, or what the work I've been doing on, is a lot deep in research at the moment for one of my key customers. Ooh. And having a lot of fun with, and I've talked about this a lot before, but with Dovetail and Juno, which are two incredible, and Perplexity on top of that.
We should show, like we showed Perplexity and stuff, and I will show Perplexity here because one of the examples I want to talk about is that. But we haven't actually shown Juno or Dovetail.
I would love to. We'll show it in next episode, I think. I'll show some things off because
they want to sponsor.
I obviously can't demonstrate a lot of that data, so I need to set some stuff up with some dummy data. But
that's the greatest thing. Like AI is really good at creating dummy data. I use it so much for like the demos and stuff that I do. Like there's still a bit of tinkering or whatever, but like if I need to present something to a lawyer and it's about something like whatever the topic is, the case, etc., you can create all this dummy data sets. So yeah, you can certainly do.
So what I'll do is I'll grab a few of our episodes, I'll drop them into Dovetail. Demonstrate some of the stuff you can do. It's just, I've been able, we've ran like 30 odd interviews with across the stakeholders of the organization, and now we're conducting a whole bunch of customer interviews. The stakeholder interviews, I've put them all into Dovetail. I'm able to tag things that I like, but even if like a topic comes up from my own notes, I can go into Dovetail, search for any conversations that occurred around that topic, and it instantly brings up all the snips in the moment, fantastic. And then does a nice little summary on top of that utilizing the AI tool. So I can pull out the insights and make the references to the video points, so I can share that as part of the output to the client.
So cool. The way that we would do this kind of stuff before, you would have a brainwave and you go, oh, where's that note? And you pull it together and stuff.
It would through 30 videos.
Yeah, well, you could do it is the point, but it would take a long time, and sometimes it's just not worth it, right? You'd have a brainwave on the bus about something that you had in a certain meeting, and then you want to look for all the previous ones where you've had that kind of thing, and maybe it's connected to other conversations in your organization, but it's just like, well, who's going to actually do that, right? Time is valuable, time is money. Well, now, time is still money and stuff, but we can do far more for our money.
Far more. And it's great because I mean, that's a perfect example where I've conducted all this research. Usually it would take me probably a month to properly synthesize, cut, trim, make the documents. So I've done this in a week now, like stuff that I would do in a month, I would do in a week.
Okay, fantastic.
Which has now allowed me to focus more on the quality of the recommendations. It's no longer just a high level, here's some dot points of things. I can start actively creating assets and examples of stuff that then feed into that broader design process that we'll be doing with them and development process. So
brilliant.
Absolutely incredible. So yeah, really enjoying that process. And Juno is like this, it's a study where you're able to engage with customers through kind of like an LLM. So it's like you're getting interviewed by an LLM. So rather than having for me to sit there and interview 150 customers or send out surveys that require fixed responses, I can trains this LLM to adapt the questioning based on the outcomes that we need. And then the tool actually asks the questions in a more meaningful, succinct way, and then adapts.
AI would do that.
And adapts to the responses that the customers have made. So the outcomes I'm getting there are so much more deep than me sending a form or an annoying survey that takes 20 minutes.
So you're talking about about a living, breathing way of doing traditional kind of piece of work and stuff.
Exactly.
I am seeing that there's going to be more. It's not just how they appear. NotebookLM, going back to that, that is the
Perfect
the
example.
watershed example. It's the one that will open up the floodgates and stuff of realism. But what you talk about there, this living and breathing kind of it's quasi person, it's quasi tool, right? Because now, like you said, it adapts to you've got the goals and the outcomes, and this thing adapts to get the right answers out of people. Now I can see that being quite useful for so many other things. You know, in the blockchain space, we'd always thought that once you have a world that's connected in terms of systems that are run on blockchain, and I won't go into the details here, and people, you know, they'll have their opinions about blockchain, good, bad, whatever. Just know that there are safe ways to do it in business that actually provide you that confidentiality that businesses are normally used to, and there are cheaper ways to do blockchain and just more and more. But assuming that we go to a world where there's much more blockchain, that we change how we do things like reporting and earnings estimates and things like that in terms of the finance world, because now you have this interconnected system that is real time. We thought, and you know, we want that, but in the blockchain world, it takes time for these things to come out. With AI, we can actually start doing that more real-time living process far sooner. And I think they will definitely merge and stuff, but the future's very freaking bright. So that's so cool, man.
And going back to like the time it takes to do things that you mentioned before, like with because I've been able to do this study utilizing Hey Juno, the you know, conducting those surveys, building the surveys, sending them out to your segment orders. Usually would take like a month or so. We've done this in a week or two. It's just completely changed how we can engage our customers and get meaningful insights out in a more rapid sense, which allows us then to focus more time on the outcomes.
Yeah, you know, as an analyst and stuff, and I've been an analyst in various kind of different industries, you spend so much less time on doing the actual analysis work. It's the putting together of everything. It's imagine like, I mean, okay, it's a bad example. I was thinking of food and stuff. Imagine like being a baker and it takes you like 90% of your time is actually getting all the ingredients ready and doing the baking, and it is. But a better example would be, just back to the analyst kind of work. Like you would rather spend a lot more of your time investigating and digging into things rather than having to piece things together and do a lot of the manual kind of work. That's where the world of like business intelligence kind of products and reporting tools was. And there was always like automation, but then we'd always figure out, okay, well now that that's automated, what are the new things that we could do? So anyway, I digress because there's definitely some cool news on. So we'll show like Juno and some of the other tools that you're using on the next episode, for episode 12. So stay tuned for that. But
some quick shout outs, just like quick shout out to Stone and Chalk for obviously hosting the place. We love them. Digital Village and the guys, like been some intense weeks without re-strategizing. So shout out to everyone in the team, and shout out to the guys in Psyche. And you've got your CEO from overseas coming in.
Shout out to Mark.
Mark is coming into Australia, so that's pretty excited.
Aussie Canadian accent. It's so weird, but it works. I really like it. But yeah, Arturo and Tim and Ivan and the boys. So some really good folks out there. Some other people that are part of the crew as well, and believers, whether you know they are officially part of the whole kind of psych movement or not. You know, shout outs to everyone that's there here and overseas. So yeah, some really interesting stuff. And speaking of developers, something that I want to show on screen.
Yeah, let's get into the news of stuff.
OpenAI had their dev day.
A lot of fun.
We were just speaking about this, that it felt like last week there was a whole lot more bigger news and stuff, because you had you know, retail folk like Meta's doing this and stuff, and then NotebookLM's doing that, and just
a lot of like huge releases, announcements, and updates, and even the week prior, just like it seemed to be this big week window of just announcements, and now this week has gone into more this development, capital raise mentality this last week.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about
touch
that.
On that.
It's interesting though, because I reckon that we should have. And I'm sure there's more scientific ways to do this, but we're going to do it the fun way. But we should have like a chart. And we've done this for 11 weeks now. Well, it's a bit longer because we had a bit of a gap.
That's all right.
But having like some sort of chart, like I would say that this week feels quiet. Like if it was overall, I would say that this week feels quieter than previous weeks and stuff. Because it has that come down. So the line will go down a little bit. But from a development perspective, this week is just continue to trend up. Because with OpenAI's Dev Day, what they showed was, and this is in terms of what they announced, because it's closed AI right now. Like it's not properly open, they're now turning into much more of a for-profit company. So they don't talk about everything that's there. You still get banned if you try to peer into
how many updates, what kind of sneaky updates have come through your systems in the last 24 hours?
The biggest thing that for me anyway is the whole real-time APIs. And so what that means is that you'll be able to have the voice mode that you saw and that you can see in the app. And we had on the show last week when we asked it to do the children's story, that was highlighted in the shorts and stuff. But having that as available as part of the API, and what they showed was a really interesting example where it's actually getting orders from the user to call a store, which was a separate phone from the user, but to call a store to order 1,000 strawberries. And when the user pretend the human, and I say human user.
I love that they're using strawberries now as like their common thread of things.
It's their joke. Yeah. And so the AI got the instructions to order 1,000 strawberries. Okay, cool, got it. Next thing you know, it calls the store. User picks up. Yep, I'd like to order 1,000 strawberries. Oh, really? Oh, this is the price. Are you sure? It's like, yeah, okay. And the AI asks, when can you deliver it? And it's like, well, you're very close by, so maybe 37 seconds. And the AI goes, wow, that's incredibly fast. It's just like, the AI said that? I know it's programming, it's code, and going back to it, 70,000 steps back into it, it's like this first phenomena of, is this teaching us about how we think and about our brains and, this thing sounding realistic? And I know we keep moving the dial in terms of what is AGI, but when you see stuff like this, you're like, wow. And I remember like way back, and this model will definitely obliterate whatever Google had 2 or 3 years ago.
I was going to say,
there was that model that called someone to book, I'd like a woman's hair appointment. Yeah, I'll wait. It would do stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, but it was probably limited in terms of what it could do back then. I remember there were articles about the limitations. Now, this is, and now people know what OpenAI is because it's nearly been 2 years of it out there with ChatGPT 3.5, just far more. So really interesting. That was a big thing because now devs can actually do stuff with that too. And I know people are using other models for their real-time kind of voice. I've heard some really interesting kind of products out there from people here and overseas. But
especially with their advanced voice models now, and like you're able to have conversations as if you were having a conversation. Whereas like, even the previous chat model was still pretty, or the conversation model was still pretty advanced, still pretty awesome to be able to utilize, but it had its sort of conversational limitations. Whereas you can interact with these things in real time with real-time responses. You can stop it, you can cut off, it apologizes. It's like,
you
changes
can
the
cut it
game.
off. It's crazy. Although it's probably user error on my part. I was playing it in my car and I think it didn't, it's the app maybe, because it's still early and stuff, or it was just in my car. It wasn't picking up my voice. I was telling it, okay, stop. Okay, stop.
I heard that.
Stop. What are you doing? I had to actually, wait till traffic stopped and like click on it and stuff. But that was a big thing. Interestingly, what's noted in this TechCrunch article is that they didn't talk anything about disclosures. And what I mean by that is that with them not doing it and with it being required, like, so for example, if it's making a call, it doesn't say that, oh, by the way, this is OpenAI. You didn't see that in the demo. Now that's a demo versus like what we'll get, but highly likely, at least according to tech reporters, that it's going to be left up to the developers to put those disclosures and whatnot on there. And that's fine. You see others do that. But just important that if you are going to use this in a live kind of setting, that you do make sure that you're adhering to whether it's GDPR or the EU AI Act if you're over there in Europe, or whatever it comes out here in Australia around Privacy Act and what they're going to do with AI regulations. But that was pretty interesting. He spoke about the pyramid stuff as well. We're at level 2 AGI, or level 2 of like the pyramid of AGI, where level 5, like level 1 was just like basic stuff. Level 2 is human level reasoning. Level 3 is like where it's smarter than humans, it can do these other things. And I can't remember what 4 is, but 5 is where you have organizations, AI organizations. Like you don't go to a real company, for example, it's you go to an organization that is an AI entity. Let's call it Skynet for argument's sake. Speaking of Terminator before. But yeah, that's what they spoke about. There are a few other things that are out there. And they also have said that they are going to do something really interesting in terms of cost, because there is a cost to doing this. People don't realize, they're like, oh, AI only costs like $20 a month or $30 Aussie. No, that's what they're charging you because they're eating all the costs underneath it. And sure, because it's their model, they can charge whatever they want. But if you're a developer, there is an actual cost to this kind of stuff, right? So, like $5 per million tokens for text and like $20 for whatever it is for voice. It can rack up if you're using it or overusing it and not monitoring. So what's important for developers is that you're able to do things like caching, prompt caching. If people are using common prompts all the time in an organization, you don't have to rerun some of those, especially for like think of frequently asked questions, but for AI. Anthropic has always been discounting these things. OpenAI has said that they will do prompt caching, and you get discounts of up to 50%, but I think Anthropic is still cheaper, although arguably OpenAI is still the number one in terms of like a popular model that people use. So many more things from Dev Day that we'll unpack, and you can watch some great videos from our favorite AI YouTubers on that topic. So that was one.
Very, very cool.
I wouldn't mind just going through a few more of these, and just feel free to jump in. I've seen other AI podcasts and stuff where they do this thing where it's like it's scenes from an AI hat kind of thing. They'll pick out a news article and one person talks about it until the other person gets bored. And then I'm not saying that you are, but I'm like, we could try that. We could do like a fast route. And it's like, okay, cut. And then
I'm good, man. I think we've found 11 episodes in. I think we've found a good balance right now.
I think we have.
Keep going.
I wanted to highlight this one. So this is one I mentioned before at the start, where you have people like Andre Karpathy, and he said here, it's possible the NotebookLM podcast episode generation is touching on a whole new territory of highly compelling LLM product formats. Feels reminiscent of ChatGPT. Maybe I'm overreacting, and obviously I've commented there. But I think he's right. Like NotebookLM is this new way of doing AI that is much more realistic. What you spoke about, and I'm sure there are going to be more of these others doing it, more of this interactive, real-time kind of living, breathing AI workflow process, not just conversational, but like for other kind of functions. So really interesting to see that he talked about that. And just while we're in this side of like thought-provoking stuff, I thought there's this interesting phenomena that people are seeing, and it's called the Moravec paradox. Moravec paradox is where, Marvin Minsky and Hans Moravec were the ones that came out with this. This is Perplexity, by the way, so you can just search for these things. You can see the sources. This is really great, runs RAG. What's interesting is that Moravec's paradox is how AI, or these really cool, like whether it's Gen AI or other robotics and stuff, can do very complex things on the one hand, but find it very hard to do other things. Like they showed the example of a robot arm that's been trained on, I think it's probably LLM trained and stuff, where it cannot thread a little rope. It can do really complex stuff that has been programmed to do, but where it has to actually learn for itself, it takes a while for it to be able to actually do something that we humans find simple. So the question or the paradox is,
as we as adults find simple, like if you
there's even
talk about the
humans.
growth of a human, like they weren't able to do those simple tasks, and an AI in its sense it's an infant, right?
But imagine like you have this infant that is super smart, knows so much about the world, but you still have to teach it. Like it knows, it's like book smart, but it's not street smart kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or not even street smart, but you're going to kick Lana out onto the streets and go figure it out yourself.
Like a teenager.
Like a teenager, basically. But, Moravec is about that. And it opens up questions like, what are things that AI can do that humans can't, and vice versa? What are things that humans can do, or at least right now, that AI can't? So I think we're in this world of like kind of meandering kind of pathways where we are going to figure out like where we fit and how it transforms different industries, not all at the same time, but really interesting stuff that's there. And then another thing at the start of this week, you were asking about the week, I contributed to this article by Sarah Kaur. So shout out to Sarah over there in Melbourne. She works at CSIRO. This is her personal blog, and she was at a conference, the CEDA conference, CEDA, and thinking about how does AI play a role, or just tech play a role in governance? How does it transform how we would normally govern? And we were talking about it for governing AI, but like even then, there's AI guardrails that are out there. Even then, there is this interesting kind of like, how do you use emerging tech tools like blockchain and AI to help you govern any kind of industry and stuff? If you're needing to record things and have it be tamper-proof and only have certain people access that information, blockchain and zero knowledge proofs are there for that. If it's for how do you actually have an active monitoring kind of thing in terms of how you can actually create the AI kind of governance documentation that you need, or like to be able to keep up, or maybe even do the interviews with staff. Maybe there's like a regular interview that normally you would have to hire outside people to do, but now it's just so much cheaper, and you can show how you're adhering to whatever the rules are for compliance in that industry. But it's this digital shapeshifter, as Sarah highlights here, and you can see on screen, so definitely worth a read of her article. So she sets the scene in terms of the capabilities, how they're expanding, how AI systems can become more complex. She talks about the novel behaviors that they showcase, the limitations of traditional governance, and all of this is to set up for what I deliver in part 2, which is loading on screen here, where I actually show the enablement and examples that I give in our response to the AI guardrails that are coming out, but examples of how AI and blockchain as this shapeshifter, and here's the practical kind of approaches. So explainability of the AI models, for example, that you can do that, or the ability to have a step-by-step execution breakdown of what's going on inside the models if you do it in the right way, and RAG definitely helps for that. The role of blockchain as part of this and being able to keep compliance records, because the government is asking for this, and I've done our submission. You can see on screen here, this is going out later today because the government is asking for this today. But one of our things, our principles in here, is that you will have this way of doing recording of compliant features of your model, that, for example, if a GP or a financial advisor is using it, that they actually are hitting the stamp that they, yes, have approved it. It's like a digital attestation before the advice goes out to someone, and being able to prove that you've done it in the correct order, I think is going to be very important and stuff. Like, there's definitely an element of trust, but we can use tools like this to help us just do audits way better. So all of this was like a governance kind of mode in the a good bit of this week. Speaking of these guardrails, the Build Club is actually doing something as well. So I've been gathering feedback from all those guys, getting it into Psyche to help me write the response, because when you've got multiple responses, like we've done with blockchain with the Oz DeFi Association, synthesizing that is not easy. But like you said, with your interviews that you're using, tools to help with the interviews, this is like interviews because it was transcripts from discussions. It was things that people sent in. It was notes that people had sent. So there's a whole lot of these things that come together so that you can go, well, here's our collective thinking on this. How would the group answer this question? How would it answer this question? What would be its overall response? So it would just be sad if you didn't use AI, and obviously we are checking the results. I've put it out there so people can give feedback and stuff. But it would be irony if you don't use AI to actually contribute to an AI thing. So with all that said, there's so much there.
It's got to fend for itself.
It has to. It's got to. Yeah, but you've got to do it like in the right way and check the work. At least for now and stuff. That's a good bit from me. Do you want to jump to something that you've got, and we can come back to some other topics that
while we're talking about what's going on in the broader market sense, like investments going crazy right now, as we were hitting out before. Is maybe like people trying to get ahead in terms of all the new laws and legislations that are coming in. This is just businesses having the opportunity to expand. Maybe they've come to a point where they've hit that benchmark in terms of what they've achieved and put to market, and now they need to evolve and take it one step further. So that everyone has been reaching out or investing into infrastructure, into the technologies to develop more AI tools.
Is it this article?
We got
the Wall Street Journal.
We got Microsoft investing almost $4.8 billion into infrastructure within Italy to expand on their AI capabilities, which is absolutely astronomical, but it doesn't stop there. We've got Oracle, which is not really a huge player like in the AI space, but they've invested up to like $6.5 billion to also increase their infrastructure.
I'll take some of that, just a little bit, please.
Yeah, so they're putting their investments into Malaysia for all the developments.
Fantastic.
Amazon, though, taking the cake. $13 billion over the next 10 years in infrastructure in the UK to build out on their cloud and AI infrastructure as well. And obviously they have a huge stake in Claude and a couple of their own AI models helping out, reading, cloud-based services, all that type of stuff. It is just big investments going all over the place this last couple of months from big companies, of course.
Fantastic.
And then
Great to
also,
hear.
we mentioned this last week with OpenAI, also putting themselves out for a raise. They've just closed $6.6 billion.
How much?
$6.6 billion. This is all USD, by the way, guys. $6.6 billion, which is also then re-established what their worth is, their estimated net worth, which is now, well, sorry, not market worth, which is now 157 billion USD dollars. Yeah, we don't talk in millions anymore these days. It's all with a big capital B. So
I blame
some
inflation.
oh man, it's bloody inflation taking up that billion percentile. So some huge amounts of money that's been thrown all over the place, and obviously we've got a lot of other startups and enterprise businesses that are either investing or building themselves up in that space. Millions of dollars are getting thrown around all over there.
Take a look at things like, because I've got access to Crunchbase and I'm just so busy and stuff, and it's like such a shame because like I love data. I used to do a lot of stuff in the ETF world, and I'd always wanted to, but I just don't have the time because I'm doing these things for clients, and I'm,
building out Psyche at the same
building
time.
out Psyche, but also
Doing the podcast. Come on, man.
doing
Like, I don't think you're doing enough.
Helping Build Club with their government response, their joint response from the community, and people are credited in terms of the names that contributed there, the ones that have agreed. That is, but after this week, now it's like governance is done because like I have to stuff due this afternoon. I just want to get back into like some of the tinkering in the non-work stuff, the stuff that is just personally kind of interesting. It's such a crazy world that people can use, and maybe we'll do this as a short like episode. We don't have to go through it and actually take a good chunk of time, but just like 5 minutes on showing people, here's the tools that you can use. You don't know what the front end's supposed to look like. Go to Vercel, OX, or ODev, or whatever it is, VODev. With Vercel, where you can just describe something or take a screenshot and go, I want to build something like this, and it will do it. You take that code and you go to Claude, or you go to GPT, and you go, how do I build a React app that's like this? Or you could even do it within Vercel itself and copy that code out and host it on there.
And do it in tools like Figma and any of the things like that. So you can actually tinker around with the design even more than you can with like Vercel and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
exactly. So you can go back and forth with these things. I don't know how it works with Figma because I've not been a user of Figma, but whether you can just take, if it's just for design, or if it can actually turn that into code that you would then run. Not just for websites, but also apps.
So what you could do is you could tinker around with some designs, put it into Claude. So from one of the other tools, play around with the design there to tweak it. Turn that into code. Take that code, put it into Claude. Optimize the code if there's a few bugs and errors, which obviously Figma definitely will have. Optimize that code, and then that becomes the tool. Put it back into Figma, check the designs again, and then push it out. You can do what you need.
And there's also tools like Cursor and some other non-Cursor, I'll call them like dev tools, where, because right now, like you might paste in a bit of your code and stuff into these like normal chatbots and stuff, but actually having your GitHub library of your code with Cursor and some of these other tools, and just being able to talk to it whilst you're doing the edits and stuff, and seeing what the results are. That's
true. Claude as well. If if you're a business and you've got the cost to be able to do that. It's there's so many things you can do now with these tools to create the content that you need to create in ways. Sometimes if you have the technical skills, sometimes it's a bit of playing and fiddling around. But like the acceleration of being able to get it's what it's doing is changing the quality, expectation of quality on the outcomes as well. Because let's just say it still takes you a month, and we hinted on this before. Let's say it takes you a month to build a website in a traditional format. Now with these tools, that month I expect a higher quality of the outcome now, because you're able to push off so much of that tinkering to the side. That's a scary thing to think about, but at the same time, it just means that we're able to do things now that we just couldn't do before.
Speaking of that, like that Ethan Mollick said this like months ago, maybe even a year. Can you believe it's nearly 2 years of AI? But in any case, he said that with his classes, instead of requiring them to just fulfill what the previous years had done, because of the advent of AI, you've got to lift the bar. You've got to make it so that what was impossible before is the things that they do now. So let's just say that you had to, for example, and he doesn't say this, but I could just imagine that you might have something where at first people just design it. The next thing is that those designs have to be better. The next thing after that is not only do you design it, but you have to actually instruct. You don't need to know how to code, but you have to be able to instruct some tool after investigation to actually just build this thing for you. So I think, you know, that leveling up from education to how we expect things at work and the relationships between businesses, we have to have that level up, because it's through
100%.
that we have these, like, you know, continued improvements and revolutions and stuff. Otherwise we'd be stuck out in the dirt throwing sticks at each other. Let's not do that.
Dodging left, right, and
Dodging
center.
sticks. What else you got?
Some quick fire news. It's really fun stuff. I mean, I love the video space we've talked about. There's a lot. There was some
Pika?
really Pika 1.5
Pika.
baby. Open up. They
look.
did a post with some really interesting things.
I'll turn this down.
Oh, I was gonna say play this out. I mean, just some of these videos. This looks straight out of like either a Pixar movie or even just like real cinematography.
Look at that.
This is all text to video generation with like obviously editing, customization that you can do in real time. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
So that's pretty exciting what they've
Pika
released.
1.5.
And you can either jump on
This.
YouTube. There's a lot of people who've played around with this already.
There's the melt. I haven't done the melt. I haven't done the inflate.
The lower.
I have done the squish. I've had my face and I've had it squished.
I've been hearing a lot.
I've done this.
You done this one?
Squish it. I haven't done that yet.
A lot of people are experiencing some load time issues still. Obviously, it's new and just
Yeah.
it's gone bananas over the last couple of days.
A minute or two for me to
Yeah.
use it and stuff.
Some people aren't getting
there you go. Look at
loads
that.
at all.
So good.
Oh, goodness.
He didn't get properly squished. I got properly squished when it was me.
Probably squished. So that's pretty exciting. Like, so definitely jump in there and have a play around. A few others that have been released over in from out of China as well. Been able to do stuff just as advanced.
Kling was
Kling,
one,
yep.
and then there was like Minimax was the other.
Minimax was a big
And
one. We talked about that a few weeks ago.
We did. Minimax was shown, like, the first time I saw it was talking about how it was better than Kling. I'm like, I don't even know what Kling is.
That's right.
Hey, it's like, have you seen Superman 2? What's Superman?
But you get a lot of those instances where something like this comes out and
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, it's so much better than this. You're like, oh, what's this one? And then you jump in and now they've just done an update. Oh, I'm so much better than Pika 1.5.
So Kling has done it, has been, you know, doing amazing things there themselves and stuff. And, you know, they've come out in response to show all the cool stuff that's going on there. So got to try them both out as well as like Pika and stuff. I wonder if I can show it. I'll see if it's on this computer. So I'll actually, you know what? It's not going to, because we're doing the recording. It's only recording the browser, so I won't be able to show it. I'll show it next time. You can see us being squished. Speaking of like the next time, there is this week gap between when people have to you have to listen to us, even if you aren't, you know, you're in a meeting and stuff. Just put us on low. Just get our numbers
Clean
up.
just while you're cleaning your room, while you're
Yeah.
cleaning the house, just shove it on.
Just
while
put it
you're-
on there and stuff. But
Please.
in any case, what I was going to say is that we've got, we're on TikTok, and I thought I had loaded or preloaded one of the ones here of our TikTok. I will do that now probably.
So do it now, I think, and we can cut this out again.
Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1.
Because I just punch in on these
Okay.
methods, so it doesn't even look like it's been an error.
Okay, cool. So this is at what time of the...
Do it right.
About an hour. So just wanted to show you folks like that during the week, you can actually hear us, and we're going to be doing a lot more on TikTok. So here's me talking about O1 model in the car. Here's a snip from our latest episode, episode 10. Here is more of us again in the old format where we used to face each other. Here I was at the WeWork, Chris at home talking about various things. So it's not just like what you see on this episode, but we see so much stuff in the news. We're going to be giving you a lot more like just access to just our intimate kind of thoughts and stuff just on the fly. So definitely please check out. It's on YouTube Short, but also on TikTok as well.
Yep.
We'll be pushing there. So
And we'll get to a point where we'll start putting some YouTube inside videos and how guides. We may even talk about the tools that we've been using and showing off some of the
Absolutely.
content.
yeah, there's a lot of interest. I think AI's gone through this like maturity kind of curve and stuff, and it is like that.
And there's a lot out there, even as a maturity curve. Like so much for people to know and experience.
The people that have those tools like Future Tools, and Steve Nuri's got his generative AI website, which keeps track of all the tools that are out there. It's so hard to kind of keep up, right? So, you know, good luck, but we will dive into the things that we at least like care about, and hopefully our followers will check out as well. So, yep, check out the TikTok. What else you got?
Some interesting news is more around the Google space. I mean, there's a few things that are coming out. So these will be tested in India at the moment. They're releasing some AI summary updates into their news, weather, and business summaries across maps as well. So you can jump into your Google Maps and you get all these summary updates around reviews for for stores, for restaurants. All the review summaries. So rather than have to skim through, it's now giving you the highlights and etc. So we don't have access to that yet. So it's pretty interesting though, because I think Maps has been a little bit short on getting any recent updates, and with Apple taking over a lot of the market share of the Maps nowadays, it's been a bit competitive in that space. So interesting to see if they're going to change it with all these new AI integrations. Even more interesting, which I thought was really cool, is Google has put some AI into their Google Earth and allowing us now to jump back almost 80 years of whatever, of the view of the planet in certain areas to see how it's changed. This is really interesting, where you can actually dive right into a certain location, and then you've been able to jump back maybe 20 or so years with pictures on like Google Earth on within Maps, and see the changes of. I mean, I've jumped in to have a look at my house and see what the 20-year change of my house, what it looked like back in early 1990s. It was quite funny.
Let's head to Vegas. Chris's house is somewhere near here.
Yes, my little my penthouse suite.
Look at that. Look at the expansion that you just see on screen there.
Which is crazy. So it keeps going back and back. And so you can see the evolution of what has happened from whether it's development of cities, the destruction of the land. So it's pretty...
My I've got cousins that live around there, so they're probably in these outer suburbs that were definitely not there in 87, 88. So I just recently moved. But I mean, meandering rivers, deforestation, mining, more deforestation. Oh man, I mean, let's jump to some probably not so great stuff from a climate perspective. But there's so much forest in Brazil. But let's just have a look at that.
It's so scary to watch, to see that.
Yeah, it's getting drier and drier, going less green. Man. Well, look, hopefully
and obviously
this is reforestation kind of things, but anyway.
This is losing a lot of AI to blend imagery, because obviously we didn't have satellites back in early time of when some of these images were taken, but we did have a lot of footage from the sky, and they've been able to blend that imagery with their own AI models to gather those, the output that we're seeing now in that evolution.
I'm just jumping to a place near where we are. So our offices over at WeWork, we're at Stone and Chalk now, but I just want to see what Martin Place kind of looks like. And it's just loading. I think, am I too zoomed in here? It's very blurry.
Could also be just because it's Australia. We don't get all the latest
span
angle imagery.
I know, right?
It's just going, I don't have any information on this.
You can kind of see it, like it's blurring together there, like Sydney City and stuff. But anyway, we'll just let that load and play in the background. But this is a really cool feature.
Yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun. I was just having to play around myself, actually doing very similar things, looking at the Amazon forest and the transitions.
Wow.
Jumping to some of the cities. I was looking at New York. New York,
coffee,
and even over in good old California and San Fran, etc. So it was very fun little tools and fun ways, and
tools are fun.
Interesting ways of seeing the evolution of the world by utilizing AI.
Fantastic. What you got next?
What have you got next, mate?
Actually, I've got something that was interesting. I can't remember who highlighted this, whether it came up in my Google News feed that is just like there on my phone and just highlights some things sometimes because the algorithm knows what you care about, or if it's like LinkedIn and one of my the people I follow or my followers and stuff that shared. But this idea that AI can only do 5% of jobs, says MIT economist who fears crash, fearing that there is this AI crash because AI is not doing enough. But it just, obviously, we don't take it at a headline level because if we did that,
more fear-mongering. It's great.
You see the things like, Goldman Sachs report looked like it was negative, but there were equally positive things when that came out and stuff. And if anything negative, it's not on the industry itself, it's just where we're at now because they want to be able to get returns from it today, right? They're not long-term thinking and stuff. Maybe they are, but just traditionally investors are not. Now, MIT... educational research kind of place. Their economists are saying that they fear a crash. Should we fear it? Now, we can go into the article and stuff, but just even at a top line level, it is much better to be an optimist about these things because there's just, having that doomerism, we just don't innovate. Even if things are supremely negative, like we had during the Cold War, and like when things were looking like there's going to be, and we are going through conflict right now, but we've got to find ways to maintain that optimism and stuff, and just move things forward. So the highlight here that AI is going to go through a crash, it's like talking about early stage internet and just think, well, it's over. You know, what's the point? Why should we even like worry about this? Oh, all these inflated kind of prices. Well, yeah, companies died, but this is just part of like the cycle that we have to go through, where everyone gets excited, but that excitement, even though it's overhyped, arguably agree, but you need that to bring attention and to bring people in that will take it to those future levels. Like, this is just the way things are. We don't have 100% efficiency in terms of the industry moves forward, and that's when we bring people on. No, it's always this chasing the tail.
I hate to reference it. I mean, this is like, it's obviously the fear-mongering that comes with all of these technologies. It happened with the dawn of the vehicle. It happened with the dawn of the internet. Happened when Google hit the market.
Bloody
like
dawn.
all of these conversations. But this is the thing I don't like to reference, but there's a lot of negative press around Mr. Bill Gates, but he did an interview recently, and one of the highlighted comments from that interview was his statement around, it's one of the first times in technology in a while where there is infinite possibilities. And that's what AI has opened this door for, these infinite possibilities to do things within the AI space. And if there is infinite possibilities, that means there is infinite opportunity for businesses to do things in unique and different ways. So it isn't a matter of, oh no, it's taking these jobs. It's now a matter of, okay, where is the opportunity to create new work, new opportunities, do new things? And I mentioned this last week, around the topic of, it's much easier to be negative than it is to be positive, or to make change. So like,
there's more work.
It's more work. Oh, so much effort to do stuff when these things
can help you be positive.
Maybe.
You can have an AI assistant there that is always just helping you turn negative or whatever it is kind of situation, relationships, work, etc., into what is the positive out of this.
It can be the angel advocate on your shoulder. So my ear is hearing this negative thing in my own brain, and AI is on the other shoulder going, it's okay, you can do this.
You have to have something like kind of in the middle, because it can't just be all sunshine and rainbows and stuff. There are things that we have to really take practically into account, because if you just go out there as a startup and you don't gather all the feedback, or don't listen to your customers in terms of the things that they're asking for, you are doomed to fail very likely.
Like with any business though, it's not just AI.
But it's lessons, like those critiques are lessons that you take into account and you build further on, and you maintain that optimism that you're doing the right thing, but measure it and stuff as well. But speaking of the crazy stuff that was going on there was this article about, let me just see if I can find it. The infinite possibilities. Now, these guys they're good because they showed the possibilities of this, but then at the same time, they don't release the code that is there to do this. But, knowing that they've said that it's possible, people are going to definitely try to copycat it, but they're trying to create a feature or ways in which that you can avoid this. And what this is that using the meta glasses that we just spoke about last week, people are already showing how you can identify and detect people, and they go around New York or wherever it is and just go, oh, hey, are you Jim? Did we do class together and stuff? Like, or do you teach like this thing?
Or
are you
scamming?
Whatever it was. And like, oh man, scammers delight right there. But they're showing you how you can help yourself remove these identifying markers, from the internet and stuff. So interesting stuff.
And in addition to this, we don't have the article here, but I did also read that there is in purchasing these tools, this technology from Meta, including I think even the Ray-Ban glasses, which also have camera. Any footage that you do capture using these devices will feed the algorithm, unless you find the appropriate settings to disable those. So
be careful.
So your personal information, your personal things that you're capturing in the world, your IP essentially, and your personal insights are also feeding these algorithms. So do be careful and make sure that you are considering what it is you're doing when it comes to utilizing these devices. As exciting and fun as it is to use them in itself.
Absolutely. I also wanted to bring up the last podcast that we did. We spoke about NotebookLM for some time, but we should actually bring it up on screen because they've got a new feature where you don't just have to take transcript and notes. You can still put in PDFs. You can still put in like rough ideas for notes. I was telling you before this, that I played something. I'll see if I can find it here. But like I did something where all I did was give it pages and pages of the same text. It was McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Pizza Hut. Because that's the first thing that came to my head.
Over and over
I had it
again.
repeated like 1,000 times or whatever it was.
McDonald's,
However,
Kentucky Fried Chicken and a
Pizza Hut, McDonald's. So it read it, and the two hosts talk about, what is this piece of lost text? Who made this? Was it a joke? Or is there something symbolic about it? Is it a commentary on society and our consumerism kind of lifestyle? They dug deeper into things than
Finding a
anyone normally
metaphor
would.
in a classic
Freaking crazy.
ad song.
But here's what they say about us.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Today we're diving into some pretty big AI news.
Yeah, huge actually. And a lot of it is
always
pretty
start like
surprising,
this.
even for
Yeah.
us.
Right, we've been
It's a good
following
setup.
this world pretty closely, and even we're doing double takes.
Let me just
So
skip
to
ahead
make
a little
sense
bit.
of
Which honestly has shaken things up a bit.
to say the least. I mean, even Elon Musk bailed on them back in 2019 because he saw this coming. He
OpenAI.
was worried about them,
Going
shifting their
closed.
priorities.
And it wasn't just him. We've seen some pretty big names leave OpenAI recently, like Mira Murati, their CTO.
Yeah, and that
about
makes you
that.
wonder, right? Like, is there
skip
something
ahead a
else?
little bit more.
What are they doing with it? Are they selling it to advertisers?
think we need
Using
to
it to
be better with
train
our
their
intros
AI
hearing
even
this.
more?
I know.
It's a bit unnerving.
We can learn.
honestly.
For sure. And that's where I think government regulation comes in. Which, speaking of,
spoke about
we've
that.
got some interesting articles here about both the U.S. and Australia. Grapplings can get really damaging really fast.
Exactly. And it's not just about revenge porn or anything like that. We're talking about using
Revenge porn?
deepfakes to spread misinformation, to influence elections, to manipulate people on a massive scale.
Skipping ahead one more
that
time.
develop their own,
this
something without actually revealing what you know.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
To
This is the
tamper
part
with,
that
which
I
makes
spoke
it
about how-
perfect for tracking things.
So you could potentially use blockchain to track the development of an AI system and make sure everything's above board.
Exactly. Imagine if every line of code, every data set used to train an AI was recorded on this public tamper-proof blockchain. Talk about transparency.
Wow.
Laughing
That
as
would
well.
definitely address some of those concerns we were talking about earlier.
It's
But what about
crazy.
this
Why are we
zero
doing
knowledge
this?
proof thing I keep hearing about? What is
Why
that?
do we need to be sitting
Zero
here in front of
knowledge
the camera?
proofs.
Look,
Those are
there's-
fascinating.
I
They're
ca-
like
I
this.
can't- I can't think of something better to do on a Friday morning to be here.
That's true.
God, it's
Fist bump me.
and thank you Google for releasing this, because it, arguably they were the ones that I know they got the Gemini model and stuff, but they're the ones that opened the door. If it wasn't for them publishing their Transformers research paper and stuff back in 2017, I think it really opened up the door for what others were able to do. They could have kept that in-house. They could have done a whole lot more. We could be in a much different world of AI. I would argue that this is like the better world that we're in, where, sure, maybe some people think that OpenAI should not have released it and made it available and stuff because it's so dangerous and whatnot. But if they didn't, just imagine that it's very hard to, because we're living in this lived experience. But if it's like 2022 and then all of a sudden it's 2024 and the level of AI where it's at now, we would be like, what is this alien technology? Maybe not as extreme as that, but we wouldn't have been able to live through the growth and like the ups and downs of the experience. Yep. And like the boiling of the frog kind of thing, which is probably a bad analogy because it means that we're the frog and we're getting boiled alive slowly. But the same kind of thing.
Skydance here, baby.
You don't, it's nice and warm in here. Come on in. The frog doesn't feel it when it's just like slowly temperature turning up. I probably should find a better analogy for that because I'm trying to think about it in the positive sense. But the immediate one that comes to mind, maybe this is a Freudian slip. Maybe the Terminators are here. That's why I mentioned it at the start. But we do need to. And this is, like your brain works like an LLM as well. It's like word association type stuff.
Definitely.
But we do need to improve our intros, I reckon, and stuff. So we'll see. One thing I wanted to just show on here, we're doing some changes with Psyche. I'm just logging in, and apart from there is going to be a dashboard and stuff like that. But something that I'll just show you here, we've got web search now. So if I can turn on document search on and off, and the documents will pop up if I do turn that on. So if I've got stuff loaded here, it will come up in the drop down. But I can turn on web search and go, things that the models just don't inherently have because it's, after the cutoff date. But who won the NBA championship this year? So for example, it's going to go through that. And I think it was Boston. Was it Boston? I can't even remember. Like it felt like it was so long ago. Oh, the Denver, that was 2023. No, I should have said who won in 2024. It's using a service called Tably, I think it is, that's underneath the hood. It's very similar to what Perplexity does. There you go, Boston Celtics won. Then you can go back and forth with it. You can see the search results there. That's available in the dreams and other sections as well. But we're piecing it together. I'll have more updates in terms of like what we're doing, the direction we're heading with the product and stuff over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, some really interesting insights, updates galore. What else have you got? Because that's pretty much me.
I think that's out. I think we're tapped out. I think that's a pretty good stopping point there for us. I think, if anyone has the time, jump into Psyche, have a play around. It's really, really interesting, particularly connecting up your own files and tools to be able to search in a way that is safe and protected, as well as being able to, associate that, now global internet search with the RAG model. So you're much more trustworthy on the outcomes.
You can see the sources and stuff. So It's no longer this space where you get a result and you're like, well, I'll have to double check the answers. Well, you can just click and see the sources and see that they're real articles. So.
And I'm a huge fan of Perplexity. It's replaced my Google usage now. I don't know. Perplexity is now my search engine. I've changed it on my browser and everything.
I sometimes treat Google as if it's Perplexity, where if I'll ask a question, because I haven't got into Perplexity, but I will ask it as a question. Google, just type the terms without the question. I would just say restaurants here, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm starting, even when I do just need to use like Google, sometimes I just do.
So exactly the same thing.
And I just treat it like it's Perplexity, like what are the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, it's limited. And I have to say, I
got to search through the link results. Awful.
Anyway,
but yes.
Love you, Google, but it's interesting.
Also, if you want if you need any support or assistance in any type of AI work or any development in general, hit Digital Village. If you're someone who is a developer or you're interested in joining a community of like-minded people, also hit up digitalvillage.network. You can join the network, have conversations with like-minded people. And lastly, like and subscribe. Please share the news out there. We talked about our TikTok page, talked about some of the stuff that'll be coming up with this that we're sharing, giving you the latest news as it happens week by week, every episode, Tuesday morning launch. Hope to see you all there soon.
That's it for me. See you later.
See you later, guys. Thanks again.
Worldwide, tech trends blazing, digital fire. AI, rising to the sky. Digital world, we reaching high.